The upcoming legislative session begins next week. One of the top priorities is raising the state's minimum wage, but as is the case for most things in Pennsylvania state government, easier said than done. And joining us this morning to discuss this and more is Harrisburg Area State Representative Patty Kim. We'll get to the minimum wage in just a second, as well as some other things going on. But you were just elected to your fourth term in the State House. And we want to show real quick pictures of your swearing-in ceremony last week. And I want to get your thoughts. How do you feel this time around, your fourth time around, compared to how you felt as a freshman legislator?
Yeah, so in that picture, I have a lot of freshmen with me, and I can say I am so glad I'm not a freshman anymore. A lot of them came out of a contentious race back in November, and then after they won, they got maybe 3 weeks to take a break, and then they're all in. They have to figure out their offices, their staff, what the job is, you know, and whew, I'm not a freshman. I'm so happy. And I just remember being a freshman, you know, having to want to do everything the right way and try to be on time, and now I'm just so much more relaxed and it's a lot more fun this way.
And I guess you could say that when you're going into your 7th and 8th years in the legislature, you have you're more comfortable about what's going on. And one of the big things kind of coming up in less than a month now is the state budget. And a lot of people want to know, listen, Governor Wolf has had one on-time budget signed in 4 years in his first term, and there's still Republican majorities in the State House and Senate. So how is this year going to be different now that, you know, 4 years ago it was one of the worst state budget crises in Pennsylvania history? Right.
So the Democrats, we gained about 10 more seats. So I feel like now we can be actually at the table. Republicans were at a supermajority. And even though that could be good, but there's always infighting within a caucus that's too big. So now we've evened it out a little bit. Governor Wolf is going to be doing this his 5th or 6th budget now, right? The leadership on both caucuses are pretty much the same. Speaker Turzai is the speaker again. So I feel like we should be getting better at this, Matt. So I'm hopeful that, you know, we could pretty much predict the governor's budget just because it's been about education, good government, you know, good jobs. And now we just have to figure out how we should pay for it. But again, we should be better at this by now.
And also it's been about raising the state's minimum wage. And that has gone on now for 4 years, where there's been a hope to raise the state's minimum wage from the federal minimum of $7.25. And each time it has not been a part of the final signed budget. So here we are in 2019. This is one of your passion projects and has been for years. How is this year going to be different?
Again, I'm hopeful as well. I think we just have to keep reminding folks, you know, low-wage workers some of them are making $7.25 an hour. Has that gone up with some other businesses and companies? Yes, thankfully, but it's still at $7.25. That's $15,000 a year. All the states around Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, have gone up. Their economies are actually doing better. Some of their unemployment rates are lower than Pennsylvania. It's long overdue. And I want to send a message to low-wage workers that they're important, and if we do it slowly, incrementally, tag on a cost of living adjustment, we're going to be okay.
And here's a graphic of how Pennsylvania measures up against states that border it compared to it. And Pennsylvania, as we show here, is still at the federal minimum. The Pennsylvania Business Chamber will come out and say that this could lead to job loss. When this happened in 2009, which was the last time when the federal minimum wage got raised, it led to a reduction of hiring. What's your response to that?
So there have been minimal job losses. The key is to do it slowly. And in my bill, we have increments every year till we get to $15 an hour by 2024. At this point, you know, I'm ready to talk with the other side. Let's get a number that we can all agree with, but it has to be over $7.25. It's long overdue. And a lot of low-wage workers are working 2-3 jobs to make ends meet, if they can. At one point, Matt, I just went with some numbers here. In Dauphin County, I'm sure York County is comparable, but in Dauphin County, a single person with no children living in an apartment, you know, transportation needs about $32,000 a year to live on. No children, single person. Again, $15,000 a year is $7.25 an hour, and it just doesn't cut it.
And you mentioned that being your proposal, but you also just said, if I'm hearing you right, listen, I'm ready to have a conversation, even if it's a minimal increase, something better than nothing at this point?
one of my colleagues on the other side said, well, Patty, you know, if we raise it, then you have nothing to talk about. Matt, I don't want to talk about this ever again. I want to tag on a consumer product index, a CPI or a COLA again, so that it's raised every year incrementally according to the economy, and let's let it go. And let workers get the raises that they deserve. Energy costs, everything else goes up. Wages need to go up as well.
Who do you need to convince to make this happen?
103 people. That's the magic number for the majority. We lost some of our moderate Republicans, which is sad. But I think, you know, a give and take. What Republicans want, this is what we want. I think we can sort out an agreement.
Are there how do you think the governor feels about this going into? Because this is obviously something that you care very much about, and I know Representative Mike Sturl of Lancaster County feels the same way. How does the governor feel right now?
He's on board. He's on board. We're going to be meeting next week to talk about a game plan moving forward. But we've learned some things, you know, we're learning. I'm not yelling and screaming anymore at rallies. I know they don't work, but we're ready to have a conversation.
And to kind of bring it back around, the things that you learn when you're no longer a freshman legislator.
That's right. That's
Patty
right.
Kim, congratulations on your 4th term now in the State House representing Dauphin County. And we'll be right back with more Fox 43 Morning News.